Self-storage is big business and helps create space in our overcrowded homes.
Oh, my goodness.
As we thought, it is actually a load of rubbish.
But some have taken their storage hoarding too far.
We had her cremated and the vet put her in here.
Clinging on to things they never see or use.
There's a lot of memories in 2 boxes.
And it's costing them a fortune.
He's spent about £80,000 in total, which is just... I try not to think about that.
I'm Maggie Mackenzie, and I'm an expert in clearing out junk and people's excess baggage.
This isn't looking good so far, is it?
I'll be asking hoarders to open the doors of their unit,
Right.
empty out their stash,
I'd like him to skip that.
and choose to either keep it, skip it, or sell it. Our antiques expert will then pull out any hidden gems
His original violins can fetch hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Yes!
to take to auction and make some hard cash. In today's show, we'll meet some lifelong hoarders.
Goodness me, there's so much stuff in here.
How far does it go back?
One who has clearly reached his sell-by date,
It's his best before February '96.
So it's a bit out of date.
while others can't decide who's to blame.
Margaret is the biggest hoarder.
Peter is the biggest hoarder.
I want to see if they can follow my plan to downsizing and, in the process, drum up some items to sell at auction.
Anyone going to bid me yes or no? Anyone bidding me 20 in the room? Yes.
Welcome to Storage Hoarders.
Today I've got my work cut out. I'm in Winchester to try and persuade 2 lifelong hoarders to part with some of their possessions in storage and turn them into hard cash.
Our first hoarder in need is drum teacher Paul McKenna. Paul has spent nearly £12,000 on storage over the past 5 years, and frustrated son Paul now thinks it's time to stop. So how did Paul Sr.'s staggering storage habit begin?
My dad's hoarded stuff, I hoard stuff, but my family don't want me to hoard stuff because my son says, when you're dead, Dad, it will all go in a skip.
Paul hails from Southampton, famous for being the port from where the Titanic set sail just over 100 years ago. Paul's storage unit became a necessity when his love of hoarding meant he ran out of room at home, something of a sore point for son Paul.
I grew up in a 5-bedroom house. There was a bedroom for Mum and Dad and me and my sister, and a guest bedroom, and then a room full of rubbish. And it's always been like it.
His father's even been hanging on to the odd snack a little too long.
The date on the bottom of this is best before February '96.
So it's a bit out of date. Oh, dear.
August '92, or September '87. '93, oh, '81. Explain.
Every nook and cranny in Paul's house is filled with his belongings. Even the outside lavvy has become a convenient hoarding hole.
I've got an outside loo here. This is my outside loo, which is quite a good place to have a loo, really, for gardening. But however, it's my garden shed, I think, at the moment.
And that's because his actual shed is overflowing with the trappings of his hoarding habit.
This is a storage space I've got as well, which I keep a lot of junk in, including the boat, which is my uncle's boat, not mine. But that needs sorting out as well.
And if his hoarding weren't bad enough, Paul's passion for percussion is adding to the problem.
The scale of the problem is serious, that I've got 2 units full of stuff, one mainly household stuff and one mainly drums and tools.
As well as playing, Paul used to restore vintage drums and now has at least 30 sitting silently in storage, costing him a tidy sum every month.
Nowadays, people go out, they want something, they buy it, they use it and throw it away. And I think that I'm a dinosaur in a throwaway society.
Paul may hate throwing things away, but his son thinks his hoarding habit is well past its sell-by date.
I do nag him because I'm allowed. I've earned the right. I've put up with it for years.
Enough of that, enough. But when are we actually going to get rid of some of this stuff?
But is Paul Sr. ready to give up his lifetime of hoarding?
So, Paul, your son, who's also called Paul, he's turning up later on to help, isn't he?
He is. I need his help because I'm not so strong as I used to be.
And I hear there's quite a lot of stuff here, is that right?
Certainly is. It's a big unit.
Big unit?
Yeah.
And what's in there?
As far as I know, there's lots of drums in there, probably a bit of furniture and some household bits and pieces.
So how many sets of drums have you got here?
I don't know. I think I've got about 20 to 30 drums.
You're kidding?
Drum pieces, yeah, various drums, yes.
Oh, my goodness. And how long have you had your stuff in storage?
6 years.
6 years?
Indeed.
And how much do you spend each month on storage?
£200 a month, which goes on quite a lot of money.
£200 a month?
Yeah, and I know it's silly, but, well, you know, the problem is getting it sorted out. I think I've got so much stuff, I really don't know where to start.
£200 a month going out of your account on really nothing?
Indeed. That's the trouble. I look at it and I think, well, this is what a lot of money, £2,400 a year.
Right. And, that's a massive amount.
Multiply that by 6.
Hopefully, I'll be able to help Paul recoup some of that money. Our next serial hoarders are cluttering couple Peter Kruger and wife Margaret. Their storage has cost them over £1,200 in 8 months. But now, sister-in-law Wendy is demanding they stop spending the money. So how did their compulsion to store start? And who's to blame?
Margaret is the biggest hoarder.
Peter is the biggest hoarder.
Peter and Margaret live in Winchester, county town of Hampshire, and home to the longest cathedral in Europe. They booked their first storage unit after spending 38 years of matrimonial bliss, never throwing anything off their shelves. And Peter's sister Wendy wants this to be the final chapter of their hoarding habit.
Right, Peter, what is in that storage unit?
I know there's loads of boxes of books. How many, I don't know.
Books and books and books.
I can tell you because I've got the list.
Oh, well done.
Oh, well, this will be interesting then to find out exactly what is in there.
Yeah.
Because
Wendy's been on at me, get rid for a long time.
The problem is Margaret loves to buy things from charity shops. Peter, I think, is more books. Walls of books.
Having downsized to a flat because of Peter's disability, they put the rest of their possessions into storage, and now they're paying to keep things that never see the light of day.
I knew it would become a problem after they moved from the large house down to the flat that they're living in now. When she said she had another lorry full coming, thought, where are you going to put it? I know, but where are you going to put it here?
Stop taking me to places with sales then.
Yeah.
So with no room at home and the storage bills mounting, it's time to turn over a new leaf and empty their unit.
I promise not to bring too many things back so I don't start hoarding things again myself. You're going to promise the same thing?
Yep. I don't hoard.
Oh, much.
A few books.
And Margaret already has a plan to put the money they save on storage towards a dream cruise she promised Peter when he was ill.
If we were able to sell some of the stuff from the unit, it would go a long way towards the spending money. I mean, we could at least try it.
It seems Margaret is ready to let go.
It will just be a relief that it's gone. And it will mean that you can't hoard other things as well.
It'll be very interesting to see who has more, Margaret or me. And
it depends what you lay... Oh, it depends what you lay claim to.
So can they really let go, or are they just too attached to their lifetime of clutter?
OK, now, I believe we've got 2 hoarders here out of the 3 of you. I wonder which 2 they are.
And me.
You 2, OK.
But I'm not really.
Actually, Wendy, never mind these 2, because I'm not going to get the truth out of them. What's your opinion about each of them?
They're both as bad as each other.
Lord, right, OK,
They
fine.
are both as bad as each other.
I had suspected this.
Yeah, they have hoarded all their lives and they've moved from place to place and they've taken it all with them.
All with them?
All with them. And they've moved from a large house to a flat and there's just no room for it. Is there, Margaret?
No, dear.
No. So they've had to rent a storage unit.
OK, so how many units do you have here?
Just one.
Just the one? How big is that unit, though?
Big.
It's big. Big. So do you know how much money you've spent over the period?
About £1,600.
And how does that feel to hear that amount, £1,600?
Not good. Not good.
And how are you feeling about going through the stuff?
I'm feeling fine. How are you?
Yeah, fine. There's things in there I haven't seen for nearly 2 years. It's going to be a trip down memory lane.
You won't go all soft and say,
Oh, I shall
that.
weep and be in, I shall give you all sorts of trouble.
So I've got the tissues in my
I'm
bag.
ready for you. Got them.
Great.
So we've met our lifelong hoarders. It's now time to see what's lurking behind the steel doors of their storage units. Coming up, Margaret and Peter have a surprise in store for Wendy.
How far does it go back?
Right to the back.
Right to the back.
Can Paul Jr. drum some sense into Dad?
Some of it's drums, some of it's rubbish. I can see it from here.
And will our happy hoarders bid farewell to any hidden treasures at auction?
£600 for that lot. Anyone want to go 6?
Welcome back to Storage Hoarders. We're here in Winchester to help some lifelong hoarders take a closer look at their unhealthy storage habits. Earlier, we met Paul, who has a love of drums and a fear of throwing anything away except money. And husband and wife hoarders Margaret and Peter, whose downsizing has left them a lifetime of clutter sitting in storage. Later, I'll be asking our antiques expert Tom Keane to help our couples sort through their unwanted items and see if there's anything of value to take to auction.
So we've met our lifelong hoarders whose love of clutter seems to know no bounds. It's now time to see behind the steel doors of their storage units.
Our first storage hoarders, Margaret and Peter, are ready to reveal the staggering scale of their storage hoard to Margaret's sister-in-law, Wendy.
Oh my God.
I don't think Wendy was fully prepared for it.
How many houses did this come from?
Ill health has left serial hoarders Margaret and Peter with a bill of £1,200 after storing almost the entire contents of their old home for 8 months.
Margaret!
Forget it, it was a full house with double garage and now we're down to a 2-bedroom flat.
But what's in the boxes? What?
That's a very good question.
Oh my God.
I told you there was quite a bit.
Yeah, but how far does it go back?
Right to the back.
Right to the back.
Their unit is absolutely filled to the brim. It's been neatly stacked, but the sheer volume of stuff is overwhelming.
It's just crazy.
It's not that bad, it's just...
Faced with so much stuff, I think Wendy's going to need a helping hand to convince these guys to clear the clutter.
Oh my goodness me. Ooh. Quite a challenge there. What are you smiling about? It's horrendous.
Yes. Yes.
You've got one day to do this. Yes.
Wow.
I need to be convinced why they've kept this stuff.
It's like Christmas, isn't it?
No, it's not like Christmas. It's like a really bad jumble sale, actually.
Wow.
So what have they got tucked away in there?
It's a fur coat.
Here we've got...
Fur coat.
A real fake fur coat.
A real fake fur coat. Mine.
Oh, it's so glamorous.
Well, it is, but it's too heavy for me now.
Okay. Have you had it a long time?
Oh, a few years.
Try it on then.
Okay, yeah, let's have a look.
Oh, gee.
Look at you.
Well, I
Glamour
do
booth.
glam sometimes, but not very often these days. But it's just, I look like a Yeti in it, so...
You said it. And when would you have worn it?
We used to go to functions, you know, but we tend not to go to them anymore. And
So you were in the fur coat, were you in the dinner jacket?
Oh, yes.
Well, you must have looked a very handsome couple walking out.
Oh, we did, and of course she was a trained ballroom dancer, so we used to...
No, really?
We used to look quite good on the floor.
Oh,
He could
my
lead me
goodness.
beautifully.
The only time she did what she was told.
So, are you holding on or letting go?
No, letting go.
Oh,
It's-
marvellous.
its time has passed.
Well, that's a good start, but they're going to need to work fast to clear that mound of clutter. Now it's time for Paul to confront the contents of his unit, and I want to be there for the moment of truth as son Paul Jr. is arriving later. But just how much has Paul been storing?
Oh, my goodness me. I don't know what to say. There's so much stuff in here.
There is.
Over the past 5 years, Paul has chalked up nearly £12,000 storing a collection of vintage drums he just couldn't let go of. But that's not all he's having trouble parting with.
A lot of it's drums, but there's some furniture and I think household bits and pieces. But goodness knows what else is there, I can't remember.
Paul's unit is quite neatly stacked, but there's so much stuff, he doesn't even know what's in there.
These are gorgeous. I mean, I don't know how to handle these, so...
Just like that.
Are they're brand new?
No, these are quite old. They stopped making in 1972.
Oh, right.
Hence, these are the ones I collect, Heyman.
They look very, shiny still.
Yeah, they're still good condition, yeah.
You are selling them, aren't you?
I hope so, yes.
Yes.
Indeed.
What do you mean you hope so?
Well, I
you
want
hope
to
you'll
sell
find
them.
a buyer, or you hope you'll be able to sell them?
I hope I find a buyer.
Right, OK, that's fine. Just checking. But I think we should start getting them out now, because
Okay.
we've got quite a bit of work to do,
Indeed, there's a
haven't
lot of
we?
work to do.
Yes.
I just don't think Paul can keep his drums quiet any longer. They've got to go if he stands any chance of recouping some of those £12,000. To help our storage hoarders get rid of their clutter, I've asked them to split their possessions into 3 categories. Keep it for anything that's really special, skip it for any rubbish, or sell it for anything that might be worth a bit. I've also added a charity bin for items that are too good to throw. So now it's time to get sorting.
It's interesting.
I think that's got furs in it.
It's got fur.
There's money in storage.
I want our storage hoarders to get decisive and categorise every item in just 3 hours. So I found them a space to spread it all out.
My God, Margaret, Peter, I cannot believe there's all this stuff.
Margaret and Peter have so much stuff there's enough to fill a house, and I don't mean a doll's house. Paul's pile of belongings may look neat and tidy on the surface, but I think lurking within those cases and boxes, there's more to this man than meets the eye. Thankfully, not a moment too soon, Paul's son has arrived to help crack the whip. I think he's going to need all the help he can get.
There's not much to do, really, is there?
If you say so.
It's only drums.
Some of it's drums, some of it's rubbish. I can see it from here.
Oh, can you? What rubbish? I can't see any rubbish.
There's some there, for starters, in
What,
that
the
box.
mugs?
The drums I understand, but they've got to go. Because
that-
this is too many drums. They look like 78s.
They are 78s, yes.
Why? Have you got anything to play them on?
Yes.
Where?
At home.
I don't believe you at
I
all.
have.
So, where do you want to start?
The boxes. We know they're drums, but let's look at the boxes.
And it's not just drums hogging the hoard.
Oh, my goodness me. I think there's some gold bars in there.
Among the many boxes, Paul Sr. has found some of his father's heroic memorabilia.
There's stuff in here.
What's that then, a watch?
I don't know, it might be. Oh, no, it's his medals.
Really?
Yeah, he managed to get a George medal in the war.
George medal.
Yeah, so it's quite...
That's quite important, isn't
quite
it?
important, yeah.
So, is this the medal here?
That's his dress medals.
Oh, I see. Do you know how he got these medals?
Yeah, he went into a bombed-out house, which was on fire, and gas explosions and everything, and pulled some children out.
Oh, my goodness.
In 1941, got a citation for bravery, basically. Danger of explosion.
That's really special, isn't it?
It's really good.
I've actually got the full-size medals. They're only dress medals, and they are my most prized possession in the world.
That is lovely.
Get sorted.
The medals are a definite keeper. Paul has a lot of fond memories stored away here, which could be a decluttering distraction. And among the many cases, an old hobby has come to light.
Stamps. It's stamps from which I bought when I was a kid at school. They might look the same, but they're all from different countries of the world. Of the Empire, when we had one. There's some serious stamps in there somewhere.
There are loads and loads of stamps, which I'm hoping Paul will put up for sale. But he seems determined to hang on to some of those drums.
What are you keeping?
I want to keep a Midnight Blue kit, but I need to keep the whole kit, so I've got to sort out the best I need out of this lot.
OK, and why this?
Because of the sound of it and the colour of it. And these are what I consider Rolls-Royce of drums. A lot of people don't, but I do.
And what is it about the sound?
Why don't you actually demonstrate?
Yeah. Are you ready for
this?
this?
Are you going to deafen me?
Yes.
Probably.
Paul is obviously very passionate about all of his drum kits, but his passion is taking up a lot of space. If I can get him to see value in his prized percussion pieces, maybe he'll part with some of them. So I have arranged for him to take a trip to Battersea in London and meet up with vintage drum specialist Mark Law, who's been playing for over 20 years.
What we've got here today is a Premier drum from the 80s.
Yep.
It's an APK, I believe.
Yeah.
And it would have, at the time, it would have been to mimic the kind of the big fat sound that was produced in the 70s and then reproduced in the 80s. Generally in good condition. On the open market, I would expect to fetch around between £80 and £100 for this sort of drum.
The first recognisable ancestors of the modern drum kit evolved in the vaudeville era, a time of variety entertainment in North America just over 100 years ago. But it was in the 1960s with the ascent of rock and roll when the Beatles drummer Ringo Starr brought drums into the limelight when he played his Ludwig kit on American TV, helping to inspire legions of fans to practice percussion. Paul has brought along pictures of some of his drums he's looking to sell.
It's not too bad. That's quite a nice setup with 2 floor toms. That could be a reasonably nice setup for somebody. And I really like these drums because the thin shells, copying a Ludwig kit. On the open market, I would place this kit around about the sort of £700 mark.
Paul may have lots of drums, but the largest drum kit ever played contained 550 pieces, including 135 drums and 125 cymbals. Just imagine the size of the storage unit needed to house that. Mark's had a good look at Paul's drums, and one set in particular has caught his eye.
I'm prepared to offer £500.
Okay. Well, I think that's possibly a bit on the low side. I would expect, say, more like 600.
I'm not really prepared to go to 600 just based on market conditions at the moment, but I would go I'd meet you halfway.
That sounds good to me. It sounds, yeah, I suppose so. We're here, we're dealing it, we've got to sort it out.
Now.
Indeed.
Happy with that?
Happy, Mark.
Fantastic. You want to shake on it?
Yeah, Mark. Thanks very much.
Great to meet you, yeah.
Oh, it's really great. It's a great place, and Mark's a great guy. He's actually offered me £550 for big stuff, which is more than I expected, but he's really done me well.
Well, that's good news. Paul has turned some of his percussion into pounds, and it sounds like he could be sat on a few extra quid if he can sell some more. Back at the unit, and Margaret and Peter's skip pile is growing slowly but surely, and the process has unveiled something that has reminded Margaret of a very special day.
Oh, it's my wedding dress pattern.
That
was my wedding dress.
This was your wedding dress?
Yeah, a friend of ours made it. My mother and I were going to make it together, but we couldn't agree who should start cutting, because if it went wrong, that would have been...
It's fantastic. So
it looked nice.
The waist
it did look nice.
Oh, do you still have the dress?
Oh, yes, somewhere.
What, in amongst this lot?
Probably.
Oh, that's so exciting. I want to see it, I want to see it.
The last 18 months have been hard for Peter. A serious illness resulted in the loss of his leg and forced them to downsize into specially adapted accommodation. But any money raised from clearing the unit is earmarked to give him a much-deserved holiday.
I promised it for Peter on his 70th birthday, when he was still not living at home and was away and needed something to lift his spirits.
Excellent. So that's your target now, is it?
Yes. Next year, cruise. Next year, Scandinavia and Russia.
Well, they certainly seem to be cruising along for now, but Margaret, Peter and Wendy are rapidly running out of time.
I mean, I think you've made great inroads, but quite honestly, you're still surrounded by the boxes, aren't you?
Oh, yes.
And you know what? You've really only got about another hour.
You're joking.
Right. No.
Oh,
no.
Where's the time gone?
So with the pressure on, there's just enough time for one final push.
Hello?
And it appears father and son have cracked it.
Excellent. We've got some good stuff selling up there. We'll get rid of the rosewood table, which took up half a storage space.
And hopefully the stamps will make us some
The
money back.
stamps will make a bit of money back, which were my pension originally, so I've made a bit of money, hopefully.
Margaret, Peter and Wendy are also on the right track.
Choo-choo train.
And Margaret unveils a little surprise.
Wedding dress. I found the wedding dress.
How exciting.
Found it.
Let me see. Oh, my God. Real crimpling, is it?
Yes. Oh, yes. I had style in 1974. There we are.
That is divine. It's so beautiful. It's so
Look
simple.
better on. Look better on.
Oh, Margaret.
That's my mother and my mother-in-law, Peter's mother.
The colour is so 70s.
Yes.
So you're all sorted now, I'm not very happy with your keep pile. Let me be very straightforward and say that.
It's not all ours. A lot of it belongs to our daughters. We're just keeping it for them. So it's not all ours.
Excuse me, let them have their flip. If they want to keep it, let them keep it. Don't get saddled with all this stuff. They've got to take responsibility. You know, they're big girls. Yeah?
Yes.
So Skip's looking good, Sel's looking good. This is not looking so good, but you know, you've done well. How are you feeling now about having got everything sorted?
Quite happy, actually.
Yeah. Does it feel like
liberating?
Both couples have managed to sort their items into keep, skip and sell piles. Next, I want to find out if there's any hidden treasures buried amongst them. Coming up, Paul prepares for a valued opinion on his stamp collection.
You've got hundreds of pounds. Have you got thousands?
And Margaret has high hopes for one item in particular.
Let's say 1,000 would be absolutely wonderful.
But will the bidders agree? Welcome back to Storage Hoarders, where I'm in Winchester helping two serial stashers open the doors of their storage units and decide whether to keep, skip or sell their belongings in order to declutter their lives. So far, Paul has already cleared some space in his unit and made some cash selling some of his prized drums for over £500.
Happy with that?
Happy, Mark.
Fantastic.
And the good news is there are more to sell. To help recoup some of Paul's losses, I've asked antiques expert Tom Keane to look through the stuff he's willing to sell. With years of experience in the antiques trade, Tom is a practiced hand at sorting the trash from the treasure. Has Paul's stash been hiding any gems?
So, Tom, is there anything here that's caught your eye that will help Paul here to get some of his money back and also to give him some cash for his travels?
Depends where he's thinking they're going, really.
Isle of Wight?
Isle of Wight, we can do Isle of Wight, no problem. We can probably get you to New York, something like that.
That's all right, then.
On a budget flight. What about this table? Where'd you get this from?
It's my dad's. He had it for years, yes.
What's happened to it?
It was like that for ages. I think people put a pot of flowers or vase or something, so it leaks through and it causes the inlay to go, which is such a shame. But that was like that when I had it.
Was it? So it's a very, very expensive repair. It's rosewood and marquetry inlaid. The marquetry is the most expensive thing to get done in this.
I know.
But the table tells a story. This leg, although it's over-exaggerated, it's called a sabre leg. Now, back in the day, 1806, 1807, after Trafalgar, the cabinet makers were winning so many battles, so just brag a bit and said, right, we're going to produce a sabre leg. And that's why this leg was invented. This is an Edwardian copy, 1900, 1910, that sort of period.
Wow.
In perfect condition without that.
Yeah, I know, it would have been worth something.
How much?
Today's market, £500 to £800 in perfect condition. This is serious damage. It should go to auction, but an estimate of £80 to £120, 80 to 120, that sort of money, and hopefully a restorer will come and buy it and put it back.
Well, the water damage has washed away a lot of the value, but £80 to £120 is better than nothing. So what else has caught Tom's eye?
Some interesting stamps. Now, stamps are like a minefield. I've seen my stamp valuer jumping up and down in the air before. So, yes, running around the auction room, he's found one, and then goes back to look at it again. He says, oh, no, it's got a perforated edge.
Not a perforated edge.
A perforated edge, yeah.
Or an unperforated edge.
Or an unperforated edge. Whatever it is, it's always the wrong way round for us. So, oh, it's £2,000, and all of a sudden he comes back and says, no, it's 25 quid, very common. A good clue about stamps is the cost in the first place. So you've got to go on rarity value for those. Now, there you are. You've got a £1 stamp there. 1948, a pound's a lot of money, isn't it? I don't know what a week's wages was then, do you remember?
About £3 a week.
£3 a week, so there you are, that's a good denomination. But they're very, very precise, the stamp valuers. They know what they want, and they're very, very, very particular. But I've got one of the country's leading experts in stamps. I'm not going to try and value these. I'm going to get him to do them for you before they go to auction, because you've got hundreds of pounds. Have you got thousands? He'll tell you.
Yeah, indeed.
You excited about this?
I am indeed. It should be interesting.
Paul's unit may not have yielded a treasure trove of antiques or collectibles, but Tom suggests the Edwardian marquetry table should go to auction despite the water damage. Tom also thinks it was the right decision for Paul to sell his drums privately, as they could fetch a better price than going under the hammer. In addition, he thinks Paul's large stamp collection would be well worth an expert having a closer look at, so he can get a better idea of their auction value. Tom has brought Paul to see stamp specialist John Carroll, an avid collector himself with an encyclopedic knowledge of these sticky-back beauties. It's estimated there are as many as 200 million stamp collectors worldwide, making it one of the most popular hobbies on the planet.
So whose word is, Paul, your collection?
This is mine, yeah, I just collected. I specialised in Bahamas, Bermuda and Barbados for some reason.
You've had a chance to take a look at these?
I've had a quick look. Well, I've spent about 10 minutes on it. Now, they're quite nice, quite pleasant.
The first stamp ever issued was the penny black in 1840. But the most expensive stamp sold at auction is the tiny tress-killing yellow, which is now thought to be worth £5 million. It is so prized because it was printed in yellow by mistake when it should have been green. So, are Paul's stamps sought after?
Sadly, because they're hinged, they lost a lot of their value.
So, how do people know not to hinge them?
Well, they don't.
They don't, so they hinge them?
They hinge them, and they ruin a stamp.
What do you do other than hinge, then?
You can use these stock books, which are quite good, but when you get more pages which are hinged.
And so what does it devalue it by?
2/3.
2/3?
Hinges are used to attach stamps to album pages, but leave a mark on the back of the stamp, making it imperfect. When collecting stamps, you should avoid designs which are off-centre, having perforations cut in, or any damaged stamp. Paul's stamp collection is in good condition, but how much will the fact that they've been hinged affect the overall value?
This little album here is worth about £60 to £80.
The whole lot?
Just the whole lot, yeah.
And unhinged been 200 or 300 quid then?
Unhinged 200 or 300 quid. This actually had a perforation, this did. This is worth very little now because the actual perforation, it looked like this. It had what they call a rule or rough perf. If this was in good condition, at £60 to £80.
OK, as it is now?
£5.
So this stamp album, this collection here, I know it's an overall valuation, but if you went to an auction room, what price would you expect to achieve for everything?
150 to 250.
Is that all?
That's all.
That's all? That's all?
That's all.
Oh, God.
Disappointing news, but will it stamp out the option of selling his collection at auction? We'll soon find out, because the time has come and we're in Chelsea to see how Paul's antique table will fare when it goes under the hammer at auction. and to see if the stamps will be joining in.
Well, it's a suitcase full of stamps, and they got valued at between 150 and 250 pounds, which I consider as much too low. I spent a few thousand on them, I know, in the first place, so I don't think they could be worth that little. However, there are so many stamps, there's probably something like 20 to 30,000 stamps in a suitcase. So that needs a lot of sorting out before they really get sorted out for an auction or something of that nature.
OK, so the stamps are stuck with Paul, but the table is still up for grabs.
So what's the estimate on the table?
£80, because it's slightly damaged, the
Yes.
inlay's gone and things.
Yes. So you're hoping that will be sold?
Yes, indeed.
With the table about to go under the hammer, does auctioneer Nick Carter think it will be a winner?
Paul's lots, it's octagonal tables, Edwardian. It's not in good condition. It's got a big blemish on the top. It's lost a foot. I think it's going to be a very, very difficult item to sell. Brown furniture's not selling anyway, so brown furniture with damage is going to be a real struggle.
Let's keep fingers crossed as the table comes up for auction with Tom's estimate of £80 to £120. Here we go.
438, we've got the centre table. Ed will point out it is AF. His missing caster has got a damaged top to it.
Yeah, right.
£50. Anyone want to bid me 50 on this lot? £50. Anyone want to bid me 50? 50 from anyone, yes or no? Anyone going to go 50? 1, 2, 3? No?
Oh,
not sold at £50, that lot.
Nobody wants your table. How do you feel about that?
It's sad.
I know.
So obviously the sabre-legged mahogany table was just a little too damaged to inspire a bid. Paul did have better luck selling one of his drum kits to a dealer for £550, and there's still more to sell. And when he does clear his unit, he can add to that a saving of nearly £2,500 a year.
So now you've started this process, do you feel that you're on a roll and you will continue?
I do, and it's made me realise that the value of stuff I have is not valuable at all, except maybe to me.
You've discovered that actually all this precious stuff that you've been hanging on to all these years, spending a fortune on storing, is actually
not worth
that much.
No.
Good, so you've got a plan, you know where you're going, and the storage unit will be gone within the next
6 months.
6 months.
Yep.
And you're quite confident that'll happen?
Absolutely, yeah.
Although he's taking his table back home from the auction, Paul does appear to be driven to downsize his unit. I'm pretty sure he'll be junk-free and jetting off on that holiday in no time. Coming up, have Peter and Margaret been hoarding a pricey piece of porcelain?
This is 19th century, it's rarer, it's in good order, and definitely more interesting.
And will they be in the money when their items go under the hammer?
Who wants to bid me yes or no? Anyone bid me yes?
Welcome back to Storage Hoarders, where the aim is to downsize by sorting the trash from the treasure as we open the doors on some unhealthy storage habits.
How many houses did this come from?
Earlier, we met drum teacher Paul, who has spent over £12,000 storing his dear drums. Luck wasn't on his side at auction when his damaged mahogany table failed to find a new home.
Not sold at £50.
But he did drum up some business with a percussion dealer who bought one of his prized drum kits for £550.
Fantastic. You want to shake on it?
Yeah, Mark.
And with more kits to sell, Paul is fully on the road to downsizing. It's now time to catch up with Margaret and Peter, who have amassed a fine hoard together since tying the knot 38 years ago. I've called on antiques expert Tom Keane to take a look through their items and help divorce them from their hoard. So what's he found?
Well, the first thing that catches my eye is this piece of Clarice Cliff. We all know Clarice Cliff, a famous 1930s designer.
It doesn't look like Clarice Cliff to me.
No, she brought this range out later. The real Clarice Cliff we want is bizarre patterns and fantastic patterns and all the brightly painted things. Some of those are worth thousands of pounds. This was a later range, which I don't particularly like. I suppose it's only because I don't like it because I'm greedy as an auctioneer, and it doesn't make a lot of money. There's not a fantastic market for it. This is a bit of a second, this one as well. It's got a bit of a feel there. So it's probably worth only about 40 or 50 pounds on a good day. What did you pay for it?
20.
Where?
Internet auction site.
For £20?
Yes.
You got a good bargain.
Perhaps Margaret has a collector's eye.
What's your favourite piece on the table?
The Carlton ware.
The Mikado pattern?
Yes, that's the bit that first started me collecting when I was 12. I bought it in a jumble sale at school for 1 and 3pence.
It's a good buy for 1 and 3pence. I mean, Carlton ware started back in the sort of 1890s, but under a different name, but didn't really hit the heights of 1925, 1930, with loads of the designs. This Mikado ware, it's not really, really valuable. It was mass-produced, and it's probably worth 30 or 40 pounds, that.
It's not bad from 1 and 3.
Oh, it's fantastic from 1 and 3. You should have bought a dozen, shouldn't you?
Shouldn't I? Yes. Had they been on sale, I would.
Thomas suggested the Mikado bowl goes to auction, along with the 1930s Clarice Cliff Factory Second. Also going to auction, a miniature Japanese tea set and an antique copper muffin dish. But he saved the best till last.
Well, this is my favourite.
Yeah.
For a very good reason.
Must mean
You're right, not just for the money, for the rarity. The only ones I've ever seen of these have been in museums. You appear to have a proper 19th century one. Portmeirion done a range about 10 years ago, and they were asking £200 and £300 for these reproductions. Unfortunately, they've gone down to 25, 35, £40 each now. But we need to put that to an auction somewhere and make sure it's advertised properly, and it could do really well. I've never sold one before. It's hard to find the records. You're going, you don't want to sell it?
Don't know that I want to part with it. My aunt gave it to me, and...
You should find out the history of it first,
Yeah,
and sort of some sort of prices for it, because I think it's probably worth, a gut feeling is £200 or £300, as the other one, 25, 35, but it could be worth much more to a collector, like 500 or 1,000, but it's only a gut feeling. I've never sold one, so it's a good thing.
Forgive me.
Well, find out, at least you'll know. At least you'll know.
If Peter and Margaret can find out more about the history of the jug and get a true valuation, they'll be able to make a better decision about whether to sell. So Tom's arranged an expert to take a closer look.
Young Matt's here with me.
How do you do?
Hello, Matt.
Matthew Caddick is an antique specialist with an eye for that special piece. So what does he think of the jug, and more importantly, its value?
Typically, you'd expect to see the Portmeirion example, which is obviously much later, second part of the 20th century, designed really as a commemorative relaunch on the 145th anniversary of the event. Far less valuable, far less interesting, and far greater numbers of them. This is 19th century, it's rarer, it's in good order, and definitely more interesting.
This particular jug was made to commemorate the laying of the transatlantic telegraph cable back in 1866 from Western Ireland to Greenland.
It falls under a category of cable memorabilia or cable items. There are collecting groups who at the time, and even today, hence the Portmeirion re-release of the item, will look for things connected to that cable event. And they take many guises. There are formal medals, there are individual artists providing carved shells and certain things commemorating the day. This is more focused at a mass market, so more people would have been able to get involved and buy something like this. So again, it's a very clever way of commercialising an item because of an event.
When collecting ceramic pieces like this jug, always be sure to look for any flaws such as hairline cracks. Check for any stamps or marks that might indicate when it was made and by whom. And if you're going to put it on your mantelpiece, make sure you like it. The Anna, Illinois Fair jug of 1884 is the most expensive commemorative item sold at auction, which fetched just over £53,000. So how much is Peter and Margaret's commemorative jug worth?
We have exact sale prices for the reproduction example, which was the 145th anniversary in the 1980s that Port Merion released. They're not very valuable, £20, £30, that sort of money. This, we know, is a 19th century example. I think that's probably somewhere in the region of £200 to £300 in an auction.
Well, it's less than we were hoping it might be after your chat the other day.
Tom and Matt, thanks very much for your advice.
And for the information, too.
And for the information.
Well, it was a fascinating day. Tom and Matt really found out some good historical information. The jug isn't worth quite what we thought it would be by the sound of it, but it's still not an inconsiderable sum.
So, will they be saying bon voyage to the jug? Well, we're about to find out because it's auction day and I'm here in Chelsea to see what happens when Margaret and Peter's items face the bidders and go under the hammer. So I'm dying to know, have you brought the commemorative jug to auction today?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Excellent. So tell me, why did you decide to bring it?
Well, I thought about it and I wasn't going to part with it. But if it fetched the amount that it could fetch, it would be a nice little amount to go into our pockets for our cruise next year.
That's true. So how much are you hoping it'll fetch?
Well, the reserve will be £600.
Now that's more than double Matt's estimate. So what does Margaret hope it will sell for?
Let's say 1,000 would be absolutely wonderful. I don't know that it will quite reach that, but we can hope, we can dream.
And what do you think about all of this, Peter?
Fine, I'm happy.
As long as I don't try and sell him, he's quite happy.
That's right.
Well, Peter's happy, but I'm a bit concerned about those inflated reserve prices. How does today's auctioneer, Nick Carter, think their items will stand up at auction?
Margaret and Peter's lots, I have to admit, don't excite me. They're mostly from a sort of period of history which I find kind of uninteresting. The thing that maybe stands out a bit is the jug, which is quite interesting. I don't think it's going to make as much as Margaret wants it to make. I think it's worth a lot less. It's going to struggle to sell at her estimate. Also, she's got the Clarish Cliff pocket. You've got Clarish Cliff, you've got Clarish Cliff. I think the record for a piece of Clarish Cliff is for £30-odd thousand plus. But that was for a very stylised Art Deco piece. This isn't a very stylised Art Deco piece. It's a little bit grannified, and I think it's probably going to struggle to sell for under £40. You've also got the Carlton-ware Rose Bowl. I think, again, it's the sort of thing that's going to struggle in today's market. Last but not least, we've got the muffin dish, but who wants one of those nowadays? So, again, I think he's going to struggle, really going to struggle. But who knows? I might be surprised.
Well, let's hope he is, and that Margaret and Peter can raise some cash, clear the clutter, and cruise towards booking that holiday. And with the auction about to begin, the first of the couple's lots lined up to start the bidding is the miniature Japanese tea set, which Tom valued at £25 to £50.
£20. Anyone going to bid me £20? Anyone want to bid me 20? £20. Anyone going to bid me yes or no? Anyone bidding me 20 in the room? Yes or no? No? I'll take that as a no. That's not sold at 20.
Outrage. OK, next. OK, not a great start. The bidders obviously need a bit of warming up, so let's hope the muffin warmer with a reserve of £30 will do the trick.
Wouldn't you want to keep your muffin warm, sir? I would have thought you would. £20. Anyone want to go 25 now? I'm at 20. Anyone want to go 25? Everyone just know how it works. You put hot water in there, you carry it around, it keeps your muffin warm. Yes or no? No. Pass. Not sold, that lot.
Oh no, not good news with neither of the first two items selling. Sadly for Margaret and Peter, nor did the Carlton-ware Rose Bowl or even the Clarish Cliff wall pocket, valued at £40 to £50. If these guys want to be booking their cruise, they desperately need a change of luck. Can the 19th century commemorative jug turn the tide? Margaret has upped the reserve from the estimated £200 to £300, so I'm a little bit worried for them.
Interesting lot, this, but I'm afraid that there is a raised estimate on it of £600 to £900. Who wants to bid me at £600 for that lot? Who wants to bid me at 600? Anyone want to go 6?
It's gone very quiet in here, hasn't it?
Once, twice, 3 times, no. No, not sold at 600.
It's going home. Well, that was far from plain sailing. Was Margaret overambitious with some of those reserves?
No, I think it was the wrong marketplace for the items we had. Simple as that. It happens.
So now you've actually started the process, do you feel that it'll be easier to carry on the process?
Yes.
Margaret and Peter may not have got rid of any items at auction today, but if they carry on and clear their unit completely, they'll be over £1,800 a year better off. And I think the decluttering seed has definitely been sown.
We've got a different mindset now to that which we had a year ago, say. And I've been told off so often by you and Wendy.
Has it actually gone in?
It's sunk in. Until you came along, Aggie, I never thought of myself as a hoarder. I'm a collector. I've learned from you and Wendy and being slapped on the wrist several times, I am a hoarder. You're not the hoarder, I'm the hoarder.
So, no piece is sold, but Peter is able to take away a priceless piece of information.
So, Peter, I'm glad, and I'm sure you're glad, that we've sorted Margaret with her little problem.
I'm glad she's at last admitted it, because she always denied it.
You're more than welcome.
Can I get rid of him next?
The good news is they are on course to downsizing that unit, and I think that in no time they'll be sailing towards booking that cruise for Peter's belated 70th.
So, there you have it. Our storage hoarders today have learned a very important lesson. Only hang on to stuff you really, really need and will use. Don't forget to join me, Aggie Mackenzie, next time on Storage Hoarders.